All right, we're starting the Personnel Committee meeting at time of 4:31 p.m. on the 12th of September. Alder Hutchinson, Johnson, and Galvin are present. Alder Burnett has a previous obligation and will not be at this meeting. I'll entertain a motion on the agenda. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. I'll entertain another motion on the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Regular order of business. Number one, informational only, a presentation by Carlson Detman on the report and findings of the City of Green Bay Employee Compensation Market Assessment.
So we have Matt and Ashley on the line to present the findings of their employee compensation market assessment. So it's just going to be a presentation tonight with their findings, so there's going to be no action taken, but you guys can listen to the presentation and then afterwards ask questions.
All right, thank you.
Matt, are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having us all. You all see this other slide on the screen now.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Let's hope this works. Thank you for having us. I'm Matt Shevchik from Carlson Detman Consulting. I lead up the consulting practice. My colleague Ashley McCluskey is here with us as well. Ashley played a very big role in this work. We just wanted to share with you the results of the study for the city, provide two possible views of a path forward, and let you sort of digest that data and answer any questions you might have. I'm going to move pretty quickly through the slide deck. Hopefully we've had an opportunity to review it and allow for some opportunity to ask questions as we move through this. Just a little bit of background and highlight on our approach, and then a reminder of how your system is built, a view of our market comparison, and then some of the recommendations that we're putting forward for you all. That's our plan for today. This is a general overview of the type of project steps that we like to take through our work. We're nearing the end and trying to put a bow on this for you all as you debate sort of the final adoption or considerations moving towards budget time for the city. Our work for you is focused on compensation. It's an analysis of the market, and we're focusing on the left column here of this table. This is not a review of benefits or the broader employee experience. We know how valuable those other components and rewards pillars are, but this is really intended to take a look at the competitiveness of the City of Green Bay's wage structure and provide a path forward. When we think about this work, we want to make sure and we want to remind you that your system does have an internal hierarchy component to it. A point factor job evaluation method is utilized to review and classify your jobs into a grade order hierarchy. And then we also take a look at the external market and bring that internal and external views of the world together to craft a formal system for you. For our project scope this year, we were not concerned about the internal hierarchy. Those are already set. There may be a job or two that we did include in that, but this focus was really on the external competitiveness of the City of Green Bay and going out and collecting new comparables to utilize and understand where the wages are going in the current market. And so we've defined that market. We've talked about the market placement. We've got two options for you there. And really, we're getting towards the end to develop an implementation plan. Again, a reminder that we do think about internal equity and the job evaluation classification. We do utilize these job evaluation factors, but that was not a intended focus. This time around, the intended focus was the external market and those market comparisons. Two things to think about with that work is that historically, many organizations took a very traditional approach who looks exactly like us. Population size, proximity, property valuation, a very homogeneous view of the world. Today's world, depending on the type of candidates you might be attracting, they could care less. And it's really a question of who else are we competing with for talent. And so that might be other cities, it might be other municipalities or counties. It also might be the private sector as well. And what results, if we look at a slightly wider view of the world, is a more diverse pool of organizations, a slightly better view of the market, and reflecting on what that would mean to the city. That said, our work is heavily weighted towards primary comparables of cities of a similar size to you. This is a list of the peer comparables. We've also incorporated some of the villages surrounding Green Bay as well as some of the counties nearby. I would like to say for some of the higher level leadership roles, the villages are not a great comparison, as the scope of responsibility is quite a bit larger for the city of Green Bay than some of the surrounding villages at those leadership levels. For staff level and individual contributor roles, much more appropriate. So this is our primary comparable group. We do supplement that data with external private sector published survey data. A list of those surveys are included here on this list. We've got 4 or 5 different survey sources that we utilized to look at the external market as well. When we do this work, we want to make sure that we have a sufficient set of benchmarks, a view of your organization from the bottom to the top, and a breadth of the departments that the organization has. So we want to make sure that we can find like jobs at other organizations, as well as like responsibility levels. We want it to be reflective of the marketplace. We use a mix of data sources so that we don't have only one source of truth, but we're aggregating that data to triangulate a best view of the going rate in the market. There is not data from every one of those organizations for every job. Not everybody has the same jobs in their organization. Additionally, we look at outliers, high and low, and remove them from consideration. And there will be plenty of jobs that are public sector focused, public sector classifications that don't have an analog in the private sector, so we won't have any private sector survey data for those types of roles. These are the benchmark jobs that we utilize for the city. As you can see here on the list, again, running the gamut from lower levels of the organization all the way through the top. What we are wanted to show you and what we're finding with our results is 2 views of the market competitiveness for you. First, a view of a meet the market compensation philosophy and target. This view has historically been Green Bay's approach to market competitiveness, so we're focused on the 50th percentile of the market, meaning we want to be kind of right in the middle of the comparables. When we do our work, this is a graph that would highlight the benchmark jobs that we looked at, the job evaluation points that we have on the x-axis, and the market data that we collected on the y-axis in an hourly format. We graph that to draw a line of best fit that would mimic your pay structure midpoints. So that fits the entire organization. What we find with our work this time around is that it has a correlation coefficient, or an R-squared, of 0.95, I would say. That's incredibly strong correlation of the market data and the job evaluation scores. So what we can say is, in light of market data for select jobs, we can utilize the job evaluation system to place those jobs into the pay structure. What we're seeing with this graph is a dashed yellow line and a new gray line, which would be the intended midpoint of your pay structure. So we're seeing some slight increases of the pay structure that we would recommend at the highest levels of the organization. So we're seeing the market be a little bit stronger out there at the higher level roles. What we've crafted for you is a meet the market 50th percentile pay structure, going from pay grade A to pay grade S. We have tightened up the pay grade minimums for some of the lowest level jobs. What we are seeing out there in the market is a difficulty in recruiting at 80%, 85% of the going rate of the market, and what we are suggesting for you all is setting your minimums at 90% of the market rate for grades A through E and 87.5 for F, going back to 85 at G. What we see from our work, focusing on the 50th percentile of the market, is that you currently have about a 45% range penetration or a 98% comp ratio. Your employees are paid pretty competitively within the current pay structure, but the pay structure is lagging the market slightly. It is relatively at the market for the lowest 2/3 of the jobs that you have, and for the highest level jobs in the organization, the highest 1/3 of the jobs, you're about 6% below the market. Targeting the 50th percentile moving forward, what we are suggesting is a midpoint change of about 5% on average from your current pay structure. To move your employees to a step so they're aligned on the pay structure, it would be about a $450,000 investment or 1.5% of payroll, and that would increase or improve your comp ratio. To make sure that everybody gets something, a simple example would be a 2% guaranteed increase, or some level of compression relief where we account for time with the city. And if we do that, looking at some levels of those years, it's more like a $960,000 investment or 3.3% of payroll. So this is an option to consider to keep you at a competitive position, aligned with the current compensation philosophy that the city of Green Bay has. A secondary option for you to consider is something that we have seen some clients move towards, and it's a slightly stronger competitive position in the market. That is a blend of the 50th percentile meeting in the middle and arguably leading the market more towards the 75th percentile of the data set. We're blending those data points together. You could call it the 60th or 62nd percentile of the market, but if you take a stronger, more aggressive market target and philosophy, what we end up seeing is that the low end of the pay structure moves a little bit further away from your current midpoints, again that dashed yellow line. We see the top end of your pay structure being further away from your current and needing to move a bit further to be in that competitive position of the 50th and 75th percentile blend. Same structure design would hold true, except we're targeting that lead the market blend position. What we end up seeing with that is that the top third of your jobs would be more like 11% behind the market, while the lower 2/3 on average would be about 6% behind the market. So we would be recommending a pay structure change, a midpoint move about 11% on average to meet that lead the market pay philosophy of the 50th and 75th percentile blend. Cost of all this goes up. Increase to get everybody on a step is about $900,000 or 3% of payroll, to allow everyone to have some compression relief, accounting for their time with the city, or at least a 2% increase. We start to see more like a $2.4 million addition to payroll, or 8% addition to payroll. And the demographics or the distribution of employees, are off to the right on where they might be falling in your pay structure. Either approach would allow Green Bay to compete. The 50th and 75th percentile blend is something we thought would be prudent for us to provide a perspective on, if Green Bay wishes to be more competitive in the market, to ensure they can attract talent in today's environment, as well as possibly just be in a slightly better recruiting position over the next couple years in that stronger position. So in closing, we recognize this is hard. It's a delicate balance of making sure that the pay system is fair, as well as and competitive, as well as fiscally affordable and sustainable moving forward. So those are our findings and what we saw this year in our study of the competitive market, looking at both the 50th percentile of the market as well as, or a meet the market position with your pay structure, or a lead the market position of that 50th and 75th percentile of the market blend that the city could consider. So I'm happy to open it up to any questions and answer what I can related to our work this time around.
Any questions?
I've got a question. So it looks like in order to stay at 50, there'd be a cost increase. We'd have to get money. Is there a bullet list of the things that by doing so, by increasing our pay structure, that would be useful in helping us see the value of increasing this pay structure other than being competitive? Are there specific things that a city like Green Bay will encounter by having a better pay structure, meaning on the higher end versus where we're at now? Do you understand the question?
Yeah, why take a stronger market position?
Right.
Got a great question.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things that go into turnover, right? One thing, and numerous studies would show a 10% increase in payroll has a measurable impact in turnover rate of an employer. Now that movement from the 50th to the 50th to 75th percentile is not a full 10 percentile jump. It's more like 5 or 6% increase from your current position. So I can't guarantee less turnover, but we would expect it to have an impact on turnover. It would allow Green Bay to look more attractive to some private sector employers as well, having a stronger market position on compensation. But it's not a silver bullet, and I can't make claims that I can say all human resources ills will be solved by paying more. We know compensation is only a dissatisfier and not a satisfier, meaning lack of compensation is a dissatisfier. Significantly or marginally more compensation past a certain level does not increase the satisfaction quotient. And so it is a question of how you want to compete, and by taking a stronger market position, do you think you can secure the talent you have, lessen any turnover, attract new talent for turnover, like retirement-ready positions and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Alder Johnson?
Great presentation, Matt. I appreciate the insight. I assume, Joe, we can get a copy of that presentation? Okay. Couple questions for you, Matt. You talk about the 50th percentile. Is that within the public sector only, or did that include private sector as well?
It's blended between the public and private sector. So those peer comparables are making up 50% of the data set, and the survey data is making up 50% of the data set.
Okay. Second question. Did you just evaluate sort of the I guess, city salary schedule in aggregate, or did you actually evaluate each grade and position in terms of how they're set? And the reason I ask that question is we've had a number of positions come to us recently where it was, hey, we can't recruit candidates in this range, we've got to make adjustments. Our goal is to say, let's stop doing these one-offs, right? Is there a recommendation with a complete reset on where everybody, like we're graded right now?
Yeah, I would say that this work is that reset, realigning your current workforce or jobs with the competitive market. Ashley, I don't think we're recommending a grade movement on any job specifically, meaning, we saw such a significant market swing that our antenna would go up to say, you need to move this a pay grade up or down for that regard. But what it does do is account for all the different market movement, thus the various data points in that graph.
Okay, when you did those evaluations, appreciate your point about how, the higher level positions it seems are a little bit further behind than others. Did you evaluate hourly positions as well?
Yeah. The benchmark job list includes hourly positions as well.
Okay. And then, obviously, you talked about department heads. I know something that Alder Galvin has previously submitted is an evaluation on the mayor's salary, so our chief administrative officer. Was that part of this evaluation, or have you looked at that separately?
It wasn't part of this evaluation. We have looked at that separately, and we have supplied some of that information to Joe and the team.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all I have for right now.
I see Alder Stoyer's here. Alder Stoyer, do you have any questions?
Should I come up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you all. Yeah, I have the request like Alder Johnson does. I looked it up on the agenda to see if it was there, and it's not there. So it would be really important that we have that to look at and study. I guess for me, I worked for the city for 25 years, and I've been on council for a while, so I've had a feel for different governments over time, and what's been going on, and with salaries, et cetera. And I guess for me, I know some of the alders have talked to different department heads. I've done that where I've talked to them, and they're saying, well, we're behind. We don't have enough staff on things. Different departments have talked about that. And I said, well, what's the reason in your estimation? And I think a lot of it is that private sector versus the public sector as far as benefits, scale, pay. We might be doing better in Green Bay, but we're still competing against the private sector as well as some other municipalities. So, I don't know if I have any really specific questions, but it is a concern that I have that we're having a hard time filling positions. And many times at council, we have held off filling positions. We'll say, well, let's do that in October. We're saving money. So it seems like this piecemeal kind of thing. I just, after a while, I get tired of working like that. I'd rather be solid leading rather than following on this kind of stuff. So it's more just some of my basic thoughts. I know we're going to talk about this. I know this is only a presentation. I don't know if any specific questions, but it's just that, we are competing against the private sector. Compensation is different for employees. They have to pay into their retirement account now, whereas I did not have to do that years ago. That's a big question as well. So how does that all pan out? Does that mean we're behind the 8 ball a little bit with hiring or not? I think there's certain jobs that have sat vacant for some time. And I have a gut feeling why that is, but it seems to me that we need to tighten that up. So I'm looking forward to looking at the report. There are city staff that have talked to me about this kind of thing. Where are we going? Where are we going with this? Is this the cure-all, the catch-all with all of this? So we'll be talking about it at council, I'm sure, but With that being said, is this more of just informational? We're not going to be able to speak on this, or
Right,
what?
this is, right now, this is informational. Joe, are we going to bring this to council?
I did not anticipate bringing it to council, but we,
We're going to formulate something from this?
yes, so what I anticipated was for Carlson Detman to provide this information and findings for the committee. It's recorded, I'll then provide the PowerPoint to everyone, and then we're going to work on implementing this information into the budget, and that's where a proposal will be, which will include the findings and what we can kind of afford financially and kind of the path we see moving forward to.
You're not talking about the budget for this upcoming year that we're working on right now?
That's what I'm talking about.
So you would like to implement that?
Sometime through 2024. So
Okay.
we're going to take this information from Carlson and Detman and talk it over with the mayor and senior staff, and then this will be included in the 2024 budget.
Okay, very good.
So I guess, Chair, for now, I just wanted to make some comments about it. I don't know if I had any specific questions, but it's something that I'll look at, and I know that we at council will look at, and I think that it's an important factor moving forward.
All right,
So I
thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Alder Johnson?
maybe not so much a question, maybe just a comment. Obviously, shared revenue right now is a great opportunity for us to be tackling this issue with, and I assume that shared revenue is implemented, right, in the 2024 budget. So this is kind of serendipitous that this is happening. It's because to your point, Alder Hutchinson, we actually have a source that we can, leverage a little bit here. The one thing, Chief Fultz, that I would just maybe suggest, I don't know how you would absorb this into the budget and how easy or difficult it would be for council members to understand how you are dispersing that, right? And there were a couple of models shown here. I think it's worthwhile for you to come back with a staff recommendation on this is the model and in the formulations and how we suggest we allocate in the budget process. So that way we're not stuck at budget time trying to unwind and decipher maybe how you implemented some of the recommendations, how you chose to do it. I would just offer that up as a suggestion. I think it would be a lot easier for the administration to have that conversation here than with the budget. And the other comment that I would make is when I first campaigned for this position 5 years ago, I advocated and I still maintain that the most valuable asset that the city of Green Bay has is its staff. And you need to take care of those personnel just like you would a vehicle, a roadway, anything else that we have. And if we have exceptional staff, you're going to get better customer service, you're going to get a better product, you're going to get, it's just a high degree of performance, I think, from your staff. But if we're not in a position where we're recruiting quality candidates, that already puts us at a disadvantage and sometimes can cost you more than if you just paid the right salary to begin with, right? So I'm a big believer in quality versus quantity, and it's costly to have a failed search, or even worse, you hire a candidate because, maybe they don't quite have everything you want, but it's the best that you've got in the pool, and I think that creates other problems for you long-term too. So, I'm kind of with Alder Steuer. 50th percentile, feels good, right? We're in the middle of the pack. But I don't know if it's necessarily the best outcome that we ought to be shooting for. And it is a delicate balancing act. But I would definitely lean more towards the, how do we kind of inch some of those up into a mode where they're competitive, especially those leadership roles. I don't want us to get, and I can already hear the folks, right, that'll say, they already make X amount of dollars. That's not what this is about, and we need to be clear about that. This is about skills, experience, and if you want those individuals to get the maximum output from the staff that report to them, you also have to have really highly skilled people in those roles. And they're not easy to find right now. So I am not hesitant at all about addressing the disparity that exists within that upper third that he talked about.
All right. I see that there's some people who would like to comment. I'll entertain a motion to open the floor.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Barbara? You know the drill?
Yes. Barbara Dorr, 3375 Pebble Beach Court, Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I like the things a lot that Alder Johnson just said, and I agree with all of those. One of the things I heard said was that compensation cannot, if I'm repeating this correctly, it is a cause for job dissatisfaction, or can be a cause for dissatisfaction, and not necessarily what makes a person satisfied. To me, I think climate and culture of an organization and the way employees are treated within that organization are also extremely important. Retention of employees, good employees, is extremely important. I don't know if there is a parallel process going on that will address those kinds of things in addition to the increase of compensation. But that is what my takeaway is, that it's certainly, absolutely, we need to look at compensation. We've needed to look at that for years, and we need to ensure climate and culture make our city a good place to work, make City Hall a good place to work. That's all I have. Thank you.
And thanks for that comment, Ms. Dorf, I totally agree. And it would be interesting if staff is looking at any ways to create that parallel evaluation. And I actually kind of jotted that quote down too, because that stuck with me. So nice quote, Matt, on the dissatisfaction versus satisfaction quote. I'm just thinking in particular, though, maybe about the way it recruits talent in particular. Retention could almost be its own path, right, for how does salary affect retention versus recruitment. We could analyze this thing to death. How much time do we have?
Or just get her done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make comments or ask questions? I'll entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, Joe, I think that's,
Yeah, so I think what we can do is receive and place on file, and I think it makes sense to bring it back to the Personnel Committee before the budget to talk about some implementation.
all right, very good. Motion to receive and place on file.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. On item 2, for consideration with possible action on the request to fill the following replacement positions and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. A is a senior animal keeper.
Move to
And
approve.
B is a plumbing inspector, and C is a park maintenance worker. Does anyone have any questions for staff on any of
You
these?
want to take them all up at once?
Let's take them all at once.
I don't think we need to procedurally do that, right? We can just say
No.
move to approve all three.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously.
Yeah. Going to say thank you to Matt and Ashley for being here, and they can take off if they
Oh,
need to.
sure.
Sorry about that, I missed that, that's on me.
We're good.
All right.
Thanks a lot, appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Number 3, for consideration with possible action on the Green Bay Police Supervisory Agreement for a 2-year term from January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2024. Does anyone have any questions for staff?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. We have a report of routine personal actions. Any questions on that? All right. Our next meeting is September 26th, 2023.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously.